Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect.
Look at that new opening. What the hell?
Oh, man. Someone's got to work around here.
New music, new graphics.
Well, I'm sure we're going to get hit with some copyright for sure. You know what I mean? So I didn't like double check. Although I did text Joey.
If you get hit with copyrights, you're going to lose your monetization, boy.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, if it's just going to be for nobody watches this show anyway, Mike. So I spruced up the place a little bit. You know what I mean? So new intro video, new graphics, new sponsors for the next couple of months, which is cool. And so excited about that. We really appreciate all them. And it's going to be a long time on the road, Pano. So I got confirmation I will be at the trade show as well. So I look forward to seeing you out there. I'm excited about that. Thanks to Shane Kyrie.
Vegas? Are you going to be in Vegas from the beginning of the CSI event all the way through the expo?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it's gonna be literally probably the way that it's shaping up right now. It's probably gonna be a good month. A good month. Yeah, that's a solid, because I'm due to check in, I think, on 18. So, and then the trade show, I think, it ends on 19 or 18, something like that. So
the trade show ends on the 20th.
On the 20th? Okay, so then let me check my calendar now that
You keep making fun of my calendar, but I can give you the answers like that, man.
Well, here I just started doing a count. Okay, yeah, it is the 20th. I did. I went I'm growing up, man, so I put it in the calendar. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a long month in Vegas, sometime at the Rio, sometime out of the Rio, sometime at Griff, sometimes not at Griff's. Plenty of nights at Herbs and Rye, so that's probably the part that I'm looking forward to the most, Mike, because I don't think I've been to Vegas now since. Has it been the trade show? No, we had a Lucasi stop out there during the summer. So yeah, it's been about a good 6-ish months. So time for a good dinner out there in Vegas, and lots of friends and familiar faces, and I'm excited for that. We got the U.S. Open series that we're going to be doing out there with the 8-ball, 10-ball banks.
Is it going to be called U.S. Open, or are they renaming it as Griff's?
No, they own the rights to, it's like U.S. Open 8-ball championship, U.S. Open 10-ball championship, U.S. Open banks, and then U.S. Open one pocket. So we'll be doing that. I think starting from the first. So I think CSI ends the first, and then we'll be doing that starting on the first as well. So hopefully I don't got to move too many rooms, because that's the one part about being on the road. And if I'm going to be in Vegas, I'd rather just stay at the same spot, same room. I don't want to be moving too much. So
yeah, Airbnb for a month, that would be a ticket.
Well, yes and no, because then you still got to go out to eat, right? And unless you're going to be cooking every day, which after
at that point you could have your breakfast at home, you could have dinner at home, you have late night stuff at home, and you're sleeping.
We're going to go grocery shopping for sure.
You only have to unpack once.
The thing about Collins, because I'll be staying with him for a little bit, is he's like a Denny's guy in the morning, and I'm not big on breakfast. I like getting an exercise in the morning.
Serve a Grand Slam breakfast in bed.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, staying at the casino has got its perks, but it certainly gets old after a while, for sure.
After a month, I would think it might get old.
And it's just like you're smelling that casino air, and you're seeing, like, once the pit bosses start knowing your name, and you know what I mean? Like, it's not a good mix, not a good look, And so plus, Colin's been known to gamble a little bit, so like he'll go on some swings sometimes, and it's funny because I've left him a few times where like he's on cloud 9, like, I mean, he's just running on all cylinders. He's running good. He's been winning every and anything out there on the casino. And then by the time he gets up to the room, maybe like hour and a half later, he's ready just to blow his brains out.
Off the ledge.
Yeah. So like those are the swings that you get. Times like, over 30 days, it's a bit it can be a bit extreme at times, but it's going to be good. It's the Rio for like, I don't know, 10-12 days, something like that, and then after that, Griff's, then the trade show, and then there's a small chance that I may actually be like a fifth week, because I may end up going to Sacramento for a Lucasi stop after the trade show. So it may end up being kind of like how Vietnam was, where it was a solid like 5 weeks on the road. So anyway, it's we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. All right. Oscar to be at the trade show.
I don't know. I know he was there last year for sure.
Yeah.
He's a great salesman, and
Yeah.
so
He's good in that booth.
yeah, he did a really good job there last year, and lots of familiar faces, and so I'd imagine so. I know he's going to be out there part of CSI as well. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean,
Yeah, the whole CSI thing, that's going to be an interesting mix there to see who's there and who isn't. There's a lot of players tiptoeing around being there for part of it. All coming in for the U.S. Open parts of it, but not being there for the Predator part of it, and who's going to vice versa. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting because then there's, obviously the stuff hanging in the air with the WPA and what events are sanctioned and all those things. And then it's like, and we all know like Predator and the Pro Bird Series association with the WPA, although they've kind of been distancing themselves a little bit from them. But then in the meantime, they reach out to Shane to play this one pocket challenge match with Filler. And so it's like, it's a weird mix, you know what I mean, of players who are allowed, who aren't allowed, and then players who are still going to be there. And then of course you still got like everyone setting up booths, right? So like then you have these companies that they want to have, their stars there.
People
you know
there,
what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, because you're going to have, a boatload of fans there. And so you want to have your big names, hanging out as well. And so with the bands in effect, and so I don't know. It's an interesting time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting. I don't know, if like the Las Vegas Open, is a WPA event. I'm assuming it is. I mean, if you look at the invitation list, the people who weren't invited, Shane or whoever, it kind of lends you to believe that it is.
That it is a WPA event, you mean?
Yeah.
Well,
But I
yeah,
haven't seen anything to that effect. I know that the is it the mixed doubles is
WPA sanctioned, I'm pretty sure.
and the women's is. So yeah, just interesting.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And I'm assuming the Las Vegas Open is going to be WPA sanctioned as well. Although, so I was checking out. Obviously, I'm even doing a little bit of research, Mike. I was, I'm blossoming over here. You know what I mean? And so
you are. You're like really growing up on us, right?
I know, man. I'm trying to be like the Hall of Famer over there to my left. But no, it's like I was checking out the mixed doubles list, and there's some like look, you'll see some familiar faces, but like there's also you're very aware of the fact that that like some players aren't there. You know what I mean? Some names aren't on the list. You got like Christina playing with Vitali. Obviously, he would be playing with, or she would be playing with Federer. You know what I mean? So does that give you any indication as to whether or not it is? I know.
No, it is. I mean, if you look on their website, it says WPA sanctioned for the men's Open, Las Vegas Open. So,
yeah, that's why but that's what I mean though. It's like you have these things where they are WPA sanctioned, and then you got, like I said, the Filler and Shane matchup, which I'm assuming they reached out to Shane, got him to agree. I'm assuming financially, to go out there and play against Filler, and it's cool because they're having these, challenge matches and they're doing things differently. We don't have the World Championship like we had in years past, which that part I'm a little bit disappointed about, if I'm being honest with you. But the Rio is always a really cool event, Mike.
Right.
Plus, you get to see, like, since it is going to be WPA sanctioned, I'm assuming some of these guys are going to be in there for the photo ops. So maybe you might get to sit down with some WPA folks and catch up and see what's going on. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and we'll be doing more preview stuff leading into it as well. They got like the Tony and Bustamante one pocket challenge. I think they have a Banks match as well or something. I don't know. It's a cool vibe. It's different though.
Yeah, it'll be different. Yeah.
We got WNT on the menu, Mike. You wanted to talk about the calendar amongst other things, and
no, we want to talk about the lack of a calendar.
Mm.
I mean, right now we're looking at. I mean, you can assume that. Well, I don't know if you can assume anything. I mean, they're going to have the U.S. Open at in Atlantic City. You kind of
In
assume
August, I'm guessing September.
assume it's going to be around the same time, but
Yeah.
um, you know, uh, there's I've heard rumblings about whether the World Championship is moving around time wise. It was in June last year, so that could affect other events if the Saudis really want it moved to a different time of the year. So just it's February, man. It's February,
Yeah.
but and we don't know anything for sure other than the UK Open in May, and it's just not a good look. I mean, it's I understand the issues that Matchroom has putting a schedule together, but um, man, it's February. Okay,
It is February.
you
Yeah,
have some
and
answers by now. I mean, if you're still looking for sites and hotels and stuff now for events, I mean, you're not going to find the places you wanted, that's for sure, because they're booked up. So, um, yeah, it's really frustrating. I know it's frustrating for the players. I saw a post this morning about everybody asking, uh, you know, what's Anton Raga's status because they keep seeing these events pop up and he's not in them and his name's not popping up. And he responded that he's waiting to determine whether he's going WPA events or WNT events, and he's just not sure which way he's going right now. So he's kind of like
wow.
pulling the reins back. So this is happening all over the world, and it's not it's
Well,
not good.
I'd be shocked to not see him in Vegas because there is such a good chance for a player like him to make some good coin out there. Not just from like from the standpoint of not a lot of guys are gonna be there, right? And so, but on top of that, I mean, he would be a threat in any tournament. Obviously rotation wise, but yeah, it's I know the players are frustrated for sure because and they kind of I think they all play ball as far as not complaining too much online, but they want to have their flights booked, they want to be saving money on that end. They want to make sure and plan out their year accordingly. And I know that wasn't it last year, Mike, where like their events guy ended up they ended up changing events guy with Matchroom, so I'm sure that had a part of it as far as being able to schedule everything. But it's like
Mm.
they want to have these things coordinated throughout the world where players aren't bouncing back and forth, is what I'm guessing. But at
Yeah,
the
I
same
know that there's
time,
there's a lot of there's a lot of balls in the air when they're trying to put something together. But you know, they knew this last year. Okay, so you want to add events. We keep saying she flew to Texas. Wants to do something in Texas. Well, you know what? At some point, you got to say this is what we have. If we can add to it, we will. This is what we have. This is what we know what we're doing. We promise you we're going to add to it. We hope we're going to add to it. Whatever. I don't care what it is. But silence is not, to me, the answer. I understand you don't want to just say stuff just to say stuff, and you don't want to say stuff and have to retract it. But there's got to be something they can say more than what they're saying.
can you still hear me, Mike? Because my connection might be dipping out on me.
No, I can still hear you.
Okay. Well, if we do, we know you gotta hopefully get those jokes ready. So that's for sure. Yeah, listen, last year there was a few events or a couple events that we saw kind of disappear and they kind of just looked the other way and mum's the word, like the Spanish Open, like the World
Oh
Cup
yeah,
of
Spanish Open
Pool.
World Cup. We kept asking about the World Cup of Pool, and we kept getting told,
My favorite event, Mike.
when you see next year's calendar, you'll know what happened, whatever. And I still don't know what that means, but still haven't heard, a word one way or another. So it just it's frustrating for everybody. I'm sure it's no fun for them, guaranteed. But um, you know, there's got to be something. They're a media and promotions group,
I
right?
was gonna say, I mean, because I don't know if silence is the phrase I would use or the word I would use, because for me, what makes it awkward is they're very much still active online, right? There's constant posts and, they're getting content out of shots and all these things from, tournaments throughout the year and, Derby City tournament starting and go check out WNT live. Meanwhile, they haven't even posted a winner of the event. I mean, they posted the winner of, the WNT event in Seattle and, North Carolina
Why
and,
do you think that is, Mike?
Florida. I don't know, Mike. Let me ask you why, because I'm not the guy with the answers. Let me ask you that. Why do you think that is? You know,
If you're going to try to like lure me into saying it's because the winner was Josh Filler, I'm not going there.
I mean, we both know the
And
answer
the
to that
fact that,
question, Mike, and they
other
know
than the
the answer
fact
to
that
that question.
if you look at the photos of Josh after having won the 9-ball, his WNT logo is either covered up by his hand holding his cue or is covered up by a predator patch.
Yeah.
So
Well,
no,
it
no,
started the Bigfoot with the WNT patch because I remember we laughed about
yeah,
that.
right,
And
right.
then the very next match that we saw him on TV table, it was Apex approved after that. You know what I mean? So, um,
Yeah, really. You got a call from somebody.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. And
so
it's just awkward. And listen, I mean, look, you get these guys where they've the line had already been drawn in the sand from Hanoi, you know? But then the other side of it with this lack of calendar is, now you have this uh no events happening right now for Matchroom, so to speak, right? As far as bigger events in these first few months. But if they weren't banned, then they could have been playing and making, having good shots at decent money, right? During this time, if they were in good standing with the WPA. Meanwhile, at least as far as what they've posted, their first event's not going to be until what, the UK Open in May, Mike?
right now it says that. Now,
Yeah,
I can't believe they're not going to have something before then, but the longer it goes before you announce that, the shorter the window is for people to be able to make plans to be someplace, right?
right,
So it's
right.
if it's a World Cup of pool, maybe that's one thing a little easier to handle, or a PLP, Premier League pool, something like that. You've got control over the number of players. But if all of a sudden you're going to announce in March that you're doing a 256 player open field, going to be a tough action. So and we talked about this before
Are
about
you
how
dropping are you dropping news, Mike, with that March
no, not at all.
256 Open event?
I'm just rolling the dice. I'm saying
Okay.
I can't believe that the first match from event's not going to be till May. I find that hard to fathom. So, but we even talked about last year about how people making the decision to kind of stick. I don't know about stick with WPA, but kind of avoid the last WNT event because they knew that the window before the next WNT event might be till March or April of this year. So you had a
That's what
little
it
bit
was last
of
year,
window
right,
there.
Mike?
That's where you had a window there to go play in some WPA events, not have it hurt you, get some opportunities, and try to wait and see if anything fleshes out between now and then. Now, I know who knows? Maybe we'll find some. You know, if I hope that the WNT that Matchroom is in talks with WPA because they really, I think more
Have they
so
been, Mike?
more
Can you
so
can you
even
give us any insight on
more
that?
so even Matchroom than WPA, they really need to get this ban thing ironed out. Really need to do that for this year going forward. You talk about players. Someone saying here, do you think lack of communication will push players toward the WPA? Tony Bess asked that.
I
I
think
heard
so.
a lot of rumblings from players about, you know what, I might just be playing WPA this year. I might just now. A lot of guys who are saying that, I think that they're forgetting that they're currently banned and they got a 6-month ban and have to pay a penalty to get back into WPA event. So if there's a WPA event tomorrow, anybody who played in Hanoi can't play in it, even if they post the 500. You got a 6-month by rule. WPA now they could absolve anybody they want, but by what they said, you have 6 months before you can play in a WPA event, and then you got to pay a $500 fine. So, all that's still kind of out there, open for discussion and interpretation because Matchroom's not saying anything, WPA's not saying anything,
We
which gives
really
us
shouldn't have
a
pissed
lot of
them off,
opportunity.
Mike.
It gives us a lot of opportunity to say whatever the hell we want.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Ain't that the truth? Um, I've heard this. I've heard a lot of similar things, Mike, as far as players, big big name players, giving serious thought into going WPA, um, for whatever reason, right? Whether it's scheduling, wanting to be in good standings, wanting to have a chance at other discipline world championships, whatever the case may be. And so, and with threats of longer suspensions that have been floated around, as far as if you get suspended again, do they want to be, potentially banned for life, and so, because I know I've been hearing those type of things be tossed around as well, and I agree with you. Look, it's not a good product for anybody, like that's the problem, is that everybody wants to get all eyes, all content, all these things with the most excitement, the most fanfare, the most, eyeballs, the most clicks and views and all these things. But you get that with, number one, having a great product to display, but more importantly, with the name players. No one's going to be tuning in to someone they've never heard of, sweating those matches, especially in the earlier rounds. And there's enough going around with decent money where, it can be exhausting, but there can be a lot of great pool play throughout the year, Mike. And right now we're getting both watered down versions on either side of it.
Yeah, no, it's just, we're not getting any love or any help from anybody right now in the promotions business. And Predator's going to come out with the first event of the year with WPA sanction, but really the first, bigger international event like that. So we'll see what happens there. I'm going to be anxious to see if there's any WPA reps out there. I'm anxious to see if, who's
in
out
Vegas.
there. Yeah.
Oh, 100% there will be. I mean, I don't know. I haven't talked to anyone because they won't return my email, but I'd be shocked if we don't see iShawn out there.
Ishan, I've heard, is not going to be there.
No?
No, you have
someone's got to be there for the photo op, Mike.
Joy Masters. You got some Joy Masters stuff. The big wonks at WPA are going to be at anything that Joy puts on this year. That's going to be their default.
Well, that's their
right?
That's their crown jewel. That's the one that they really they
Right.
take a lot of pride on that mantle.
It's around the same time as if it's early in this year, then that's where the big guys are going to be. So and the more that they kind of feather their nest with Joy and Hayball, the better, to me, the better the opportunity is for the WNT to get some kind of sanction approval for their events so that they can just carry on without interference and really without these guys paying a lot of attention to them because they're going to be so busy focused on Joy, which I think is going to be the case. So
what do you mean, Mike?
What do you mean by what?
You're saying that to not have the eyes on the Joy event? Is that what you're saying? So
no. What I'm saying is, with the WPA focusing so much on Hayball and Joy's connection this year and their money, whatever, that if the WNT and Matchroom can get a sanctioning agreement through with the WPA, then they can just roll through the year unimpeded, right? None of these federations are going to be on their ass for threatening promoters in their countries. None of these federations are going to be on their ass about, banning players from playing, that type of thing. They can just roll right on. And the WPA, I think, would be happy to know that that's happening over here and that it's all sanctioned and they don't have to worry about it. And they can focus on going to all the Joy events and taking pictures with the Joy people.
The medal, right? Is that what we're doing? The medal, right? We're important. Gotta fly business class. That's what those $500 are going towards for every one of them. They go and pay. No, I agree with you. And look, it's just a point. It's just to a point where it kind of feels like enough's enough, And I'm sure that you don't want to start having these. You don't want to start seeing more names dip out of either side,
right?
And if you have companies that are willing to put on, a World 8-Ball Championship and a World 10-Ball Championship and all these things, right? You want to see the best names out there, just like you want to see with the World 9-Ball Championship, Mike.
Yeah.
And so I think you've kind of proven your point to where. Listen, we want to get some respect and we want you guys to understand what we're doing and, you know, in some sense, leave us alone, you know, but at the same time, we can all have the bigger picture in mind and know that, hey, we can just kind of put pride or whatever else is getting in the way aside to where give the fans what they want, you know?
Yeah.
And I know that there's a chance for a lot of other players to become stars once somebody leaves the mix, right? Because now that filler wasn't on Reyes or Mosconi Cup, you had other guys kind of jump into that mix, but we like seeing Josh, or you want to root against Josh, right? You want to either boo him or you want
All
to
you gotta
cheer
do
him,
is
but
look
either
at
way, you
Derby.
want to watch it.
Josh shows up at Derby, and you know everybody's just like, your eyes pop out watching him play again. You're like, I want to see more of that. I want to see this guy more often. You know, this is what I like to watch, is a guy hit the table like that and just make the game look that easy. So yeah, we all want to see that. We all want to see it everywhere all the time.
So, what are some? I mean, have you found out anything as far as what's really keeping more events from coming out, Mike? As far as these bigger events,
No, really haven't.
from being
It's been
scheduled.
it's been pretty radio silent. Any like kind of communications I've had, throwing bits and pieces out to my matchroom friends. They're just not, they're just not going out on the edge with anything at this point. So, and like I said, got to be frustrating as hell for all of them too. Can't be fun. And their position is, we'd rather say nothing than say something we have to take back or give you bits and pieces.
Well,
Uh,
the irony is that's kind of what started all this last year, wasn't it? With the WPA kind of putting their foot in the mouth as far as putting out a premature statement, and then they ended up retracting. And
February 28th deadline, you mean?
yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah,
now all that has kind of come and gone, and we have
right.
gotten to the point where that line in the sand was drawn, and so it's a matter now of they, we know what players are banned, we know what events are sanctioned and what events aren't, and so from this point on, unless they come to some kind of agreement, from this point on, every event separates people further, right? Every event is gonna be more lines in the sand, more pushing people in different directions. So get it, get it, get it solved.
Get it
Get it
together.
solved. It just cannot be as hard as we're being told that it is. It
Well,
can't be.
basically, if you play the UK Open, then you're basically saying you're not playing any WPA events for the rest of the year because
As of
then
right now.
if everything stayed the course, right? Because
Correct.
then you would be banned from six or suspended 6 months
May until
from that point.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you think this is going to affect the World Championship, Mike? Because I know that's their big, um, that's their Super Bowl,
Well, the
so to
world
speak, on both
championship.
sides.
Well, I don't think it'll affect it because the world championship is WPA sanctioned, right?
But
So
that's what I mean. Do you think that that they will push to have it be more under, how can I say this? Like for the WPA to have more of a say as far as the players who aren't going to be there, right? So like if
right,
players are still, let's say players are still suspended, right? And they're suspended under WPA.
yeah,
Does
but
that mean everyone who played Hanoi?
they would still be there in match rooms, group of 100. Matchroom still controls who gets the invites, right? So they can still go. The only thing is how many WPA players would be added to the mix, which last year was like Wojciech and one other person. So
It
I
was more than
think
two, wasn't it, Mike? I thought it was like a dozen or so.
no, not from WPA. No, it was either two or four. It was either two or four. It was 100 WPA. I mean WNT. There
The,
was
the top 100, right?
Yeah, there was 16 or 20, um, from Middle East that they gave to the Saudis, at least that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it really came down to like four that the WPA had at their disposal, right? So, I don't think that would change a lot this year unless WPA tried to sue Matchroom for, um, you know, the breaking the rules or something, which I don't see happening. So, the the solution really, like I said, is just get the freaking ban taken care of, sanction the events, and move on.
Yeah, I mean, look, this time last year we were kind of dealing with the same things, but we had a lot of things to look forward to. You know, we had PLP already on the calendar. We had, at the time, you know, we would have thought that World Cup of Pool was still going to be popped up at some point throughout the year. UK Open kind of stays, you know, par for the course because that's around the same time as it was last year. That was really like their first event last year, Mike. But you know, it's like we know that they've been growing and they've been organizing and, you know, trying to get a more player friendly schedule out there and dealing with promoters all over the world to get under their umbrella and, you know, make it to where it's travel friendly for some of these guys, right?
Yeah,
But it's like it's still a year later, they're still kind of dealing with these same issues as far as where's everything gonna settle down at. Um, and you know, look, when the last time we had Aishan on, you know, he made it a point to say that, hey, listen, we're willing to do whatever it takes to kind of get this situation resolved, you know. And I know that since then, you know, they've kind of taken that silent approach as well because they haven't really gone on the record as far as saying, you know, where they're at today or if they've talked. And maybe you can kind of, if you've heard anything, you know, as far as talks continuing over the last few months, you know, is there anything you can kind of shed some light on in that regard?
I'm under a gag order.
So that's a yes. Okay. So that's a yes. Well, that's good though, if it is, you know. You know, I get not
Well,
wanting to.
there is a glimmer in my mind. There's a glimmer of hope. Okay, so
That's we'll take
uh,
something.
you know, so it's but you know, there's always glimmers of hope when people sit down and talk and say, you know, here's what we really want. Here's what we really want. And okay, I think we can come to a middle ground. And then everybody goes in their opposite directions and they talk to their lawyers and they send stuff back to each other that's supposed to be signed and the language
Completely different.
be different to
Yeah.
whoever's reading it, right? Whichever side is reading what the other side wrote said, wait a second, this is completely
That's not
what
what
we
we
talk about this. You know, so that's usually when it gets scuttled. And so, you know, to me, the main thing is agree on stuff that you can agree on, put it down in like 3 lines of type so that it's very easy, you know, it's not fine print and 9 zillion pages. Save some lawyer money and just sign it, move on, and deal with you know, there's going to be issues going forward that you're going to have to re-sit down and address. But do
Yeah.
that then. Don't try to get the entire world for the next 20 years solved in one document. It's not going to happen.
How much of the onus, Mike, is on the players and them being more vocal and
You know,
um,
I don't put the players at fault. There was a certain point at which the players were kind of in a position to do something, and they kind of started to, and then that kind of went to shit, as we all know. At this point, things are too far along with the two groups, promotion-wise, for the players to really have any impact on, unless they all wanted to get together and say, we're picking this side or that side, and everybody does it tomorrow. And if you
well,
go up,
that'll never happen because they don't have.
right,
There's going to be
so it
some
doesn't
players
happen.
that don't have any faith in,
And
and they can't get
I
on the
don't
same
expect
page.
that. I don't expect that to happen. I wouldn't expect the players to put themselves in that situation at this point. So um, it's just, you know, they're all at this point more confused than we are, and so they're just sitting back waiting for someone to make decisions that will allow them more freedom, right? That's what they all want. That's all they all want. It's really simple. If you want to make the players happy, let them frickin' play. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, I mean, I think they want to have the most opportunity they can, and you know, and really, and maybe you can kind of give me your opinion on it. You know, this is like some of the best time in pool over the last 20 years. You know,
That's
um,
you know, there's there's 2 times nobody can agree. It's when everything's going really well or everything's complete shit.
yeah,
So you know, everything's going really well now,
gotcha.
and so you're going to get into, you know, muscle flexing and turf protection and the natural um, problems that come with growth, right? So now you've got more and more tournaments with bigger money, which sounds great for everybody, unless you're trying to run those tournaments and the date issues come up and the country issues come up and the
Right.
travel issues come up and the cost issues come up. So the bigger it gets, the more of those problems are going to surface. But like everything else, you deal with those problems when you hit them, and then you move on. There's a lot of things about this that I empathize with, that I feel like I understand, and I want to cut some slack to everybody on. But
But they've been given enough time as far as the slack goes,
yeah,
Mike. I mean, it's
I mean,
we were talking about this a year ago.
the
Still,
Sabres have been rattling for a year and a half, 2 years.
yeah.
Okay, so just drop the swords and realize that neither one of them's going to be good enough to kill the other one with their sword. So drop the swords. Play nice. You don't have to be best friends. Just think of the players for once. I mean, everybody says they think of the players, and I think that they are thinking of the players. But
Well,
we
they
all,
find ways to justify it. I think that's part of it as well. And then, you know, depending on how you surround yourself, you get patted on the back. I feel like as an industry, everyone's kind of got this responsibility at this point because you know
it is a
from
responsibility. It's
it
exactly what
is, it really is. Yeah, no, 100% it is,
ability
Mike.
of these people to, on both sides, and they're both completely different groups, companies, business plans, business models, for profit, not for whatever. They're both completely different. So they have their own way of approaching things. But
Right.
the common thread between the two of them is theoretically the player's welfare. Theoretically. So start with that
Sounds
base.
good. It sounds good for a post, Mike.
Does. So it's like it's like start with that and say, okay, no matter what other issues we have, try to remember that this is what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to the point where all the players can play and be happy and make money, and we can grow this all together. And
Right.
the WNT will grow as a for-profit professional sports league, and the WPA will grow as a national federation, grow the whole sport, get involved in the Olympics and all that kind of stuff. They can still take their two different approaches and be successful. And the best way to do that is to allow the players to play in all the stuff.
Make amends, basically.
Yeah, figure it out.
Yeah, I think enough is enough, Mike, and I think as a collective, though, everyone's gonna have to kind of put their foot in the ground, either that or put some pressure, whether directly or indirectly. And everyone's utilizing social media one way or the other. I think now it's time for them to kind of put some heat on them to get it resolved at this point, because whether it's players or sponsors or promoters or whatever, because everybody wants to have the best names there, the biggest guys there. They want to have the most drama there when it comes to play and the most marquee matchups, right? Playing for the most amount of money. And because things are growing, whether you're selling a product to the Olympics or whoever, right? Sponsorships or whatever, you wanna have the most eyes on there. Um, and so everybody kind of wants to have that opportunity to make the most money. And it's great to say, hey, we're for the players, we're advocating on their behalf. But come on,
Yeah,
let's make it happen already.
yeah.
You know,
So yeah, let's just it would be the biggest story of the year. And you wouldn't even have to, sit through the rest of the year to find out if they could find a way to make this thing work before the next big tournaments.
well, I mean, how much more exciting would it make everything? You know, how much more exciting? What's the matter, babe? Yeah, babe. How much more exciting would it make every single event that we're talking about here? Maybe some of these regional events might take a little bit, might take it on the chin a little bit, but for the most part, players would players would have their chance to um, play on streams and for an okay amount of money, you know, in so many different places, Mike. You
Right.
know, and so I think um, that's where you'll get the most fans excited and more eyes on there and all these things that are just going to be a byproduct of getting these massive names on there. And I mean, it's I don't want Derby to be the only place where I get to see Josh and Shane play, you know. And I know no one wants to kind of put their pride aside, but um, yeah, it's shitty that, you know, like we're going to Vegas, and I remember every year looking forward to it, and the Rio is always a great event, but then it's like it's not the same now, you know, and it's not going to be the same, and whether it's companies involved or you know WPA or whatever, you know, Matchroom, it's this whole silent approach has not really worked out so well because um, we're all taking the worst of it here. It feels like.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, this has been the most frustrating month, hasn't it? Brutal.
Yeah, I mean, and it's, you know, it's like, and I don't we haven't given a pass for companies like Predator in the past, and I'll go to them, right, because they were silent. They have remained silent this whole time, and then they kind of said, well, we're not going to have a WPA event in Puerto Rico, right? It's non WPA sanctioned. We're going to hang our hat on that, and so, but it's like you could have taken a more you could have gotten more public favor by having a position publicly if you're already going to take that stand down the road anyway. You know what I mean, Mike? Um,
Yeah,
yes, and that's just one example. You know what I mean? There's everybody has their their piece of that pie where, hey, listen, you can make a difference if you guys can all just kind of figure it out all together, you know. And
yeah,
what's going to be the best way forward, because it didn't work. I mean, it did work, but it could be so much better, so much better.
right. Agreed.
So where do you think they go from here, Mike? Realistically, like, is it just going to be another few months of radio silence and, you know, more, whether it's you know, talking in private, or where do you think that this is going to move to?
Well, it's a really good. It's a really good question. I mean, I think that, you know, I'm sure Matchroom is scrambling as fast as they can to get a calendar out. But I wouldn't say that I would bet that it's going to be in the next 2 weeks. I wouldn't say I would bet that it's going to be in the next 4 weeks. I just don't know. It's just such a there's just, you know, no communication. No, you have no idea what's being considered, what's holding things up, what's, you know, whatever, the size of it, the scope of it. I mean, I hope for them that when they do come out with something, it's bigger than last year. Because as we said a million times, last year went through with two fewer tournaments, World Cup of Pool and Spanish Open. So if this year comes out and it's the same schedule, the same events as last year with nothing added to it, um, that's not going to look good at
You
all.
mean like it was this past year, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but you would look at 24 and say that it was still a you know, calendar packed year with a lot of great events and
for
you know,
WNT,
yeah, I mean, it was a busy year, Mike.
there were two fewer events. How was it busier the year before?
No, I mean, look, if in I get what you mean as far as the Spanish and the World Cup of Pool, and obviously we missed those events, right? Because that, you know, Dang winning out there
Yeah.
against Mark, you know, the year prior was great. The Philippines winning, and I mean, how you just let that um uh you know, that kind of fall in the cracks as far as being able to capitalize on that momentum is crazy to me, you know, especially given the market. But it's like, um all in all, I mean, there was a lot of stuff still going on, Mikey. You know, irregardless, a lot of pool to be watched throughout the whole year.
Yeah, there was, but like I said, if you look at the number of tournaments and that were available to the players, you know, major tournaments
Yep.
at WNT, there were fewer. So you got to come with more, especially if we waited this long for these big announcements. You know, we were told that we were going to get all our answers for no World Cup of Pool and all that kind of stuff. We
Yep.
we better get it, and the sooner they can do it, the better. Um, you know, I don't know. It's just we'll see what happens.
I'm excited to see what happens. I hope. Look, they there's been enough excitement and buzz in the industry where another splash in a positive direction would do everyone well, and it would be a breath of fresh air, and it would get everybody more excited for everything going on, you
Yeah.
know, instead of just kind of have all these things where either you look the other way when it comes to who's there or who's not there, or um, whatever the case may be. But everyone's end product took a hit. As much as you don't want to,
It
as
did.
much as you
No
don't
doubt.
want to admit it,
Everybody's did. Nobody came out
nobody,
better last year than, with everything that happened. Nobody did.
no, no, not at all. I mean, look, I loved going to the Philippines, right? I loved going to the Reyes Cup, but and I'm not just saying this in hindsight after they end up losing, but I would have loved to see the Europeans have Josh on that team and see what they could have really done, you know? Um, and that's just one example of it. So, um, we're missing out, and it's if we're getting this excited about what Josh is doing to Shane at midnight at the Derby, imagine how we can do with them having a more premium opportunity like a UK
Yeah.
Open,
Big
or
stage. Yeah. Big
yeah,
stage. Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean, or Las Vegas, or whatever the case may be, Mike. you
So,
know
yeah.
um outside of like a race to 5 one pocket, because by the way, that match, race to 5, Josh and Shane, that may be over. You don't go to the restroom is what I'm going to say, because
That's that's it. In reality, it's barely an exhibition.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's not
But
a
I like the
not a big
thought
grudge
behind it.
match. It's not a
What?
$6
It's not a
million
grudge match. What do you mean it's
fiddle.
not a grudge match? It's Josh and Shane, Mike. Of course it's a grudge match. Are you nuts?
It's given the scope and size of it. When they get there, it's not going to be Shane and Federer. It's not going to be it's just not going to have that same impact. It's a race to 5. What is it? It's winner take all. How much?
The race to 5 is the biggest part of it for
Of
sure. At
course.
least because both of them are offensive. I mean, they both know how to play the game really well, and very underrated. Or maybe they're rated accordingly. But either way, they're not gonna pass up a straight back in fear of selling out to the other guy. They're gonna want to get it over with as quickly as possible, pick up the 10 grand. I know it says winner take all, but I'd imagine that the guy in second place got some kind of appearance fee for showing up. Now, I
Yeah.
don't know that to be the case, but I'd be shocked. Knowing
Yeah.
Shane, knowing Shane, I would be surprised. Don't get me wrong, a
You know, he's
$10,000 free
he's
roll
not
is
going to go
great.
there. He's not going to go there playing that, knowing that he's not even invited to play in the 9 ball or in the 10
Yeah.
ball event. It's so he's going to go there to play Josh. Race to 5 for 10,000. It just so yeah. I mean, it's fun. It's a nice exhibition. It's Scott Frost and Francisco Bustamante. It's whatever. There's not really, to me, going to be a lot of difference.
Well, on their note of it, like, I like them trying to change it up. Like I said, I love a world championship. I do. But I love the outside the box thinking when it comes to the
Yeah,
way
no, I
they
got no
try to like
problem
salvage it
with
as
that.
best they can, it looks like.
I'm just not putting a lot of, this is the be all end all. This is what we've been waiting all our lives for type of approach to it. I'm going to go there. It's going to be fun to watch. And, we move on, wait for the next event.
Wait, so if WPA is not gonna go there, how come you're going for like 5, 6 days? Because you only show up unless the big suits show up, Mike.
I got a couple dinner reservations I've got to take care of.
A good meal, huh?
I've been to Vegas, since like last spring. So
I'm not complaining. I'm gonna be
I
excited to
need
see
to
you.
get out there, and I need my herbs and rye cocktail. I need my Esther's Kitchen dinner. I need a couple of those
Oh
things.
yeah. Look, herbs and rye is just so good, man. Whether you're sitting at the bar, I wonder if I can hit them up to sponsor the show during Vegas, man. We go, I know they certainly don't need any more foot traffic because that place is
Oh, no,
always
no,
packed. Whether it's
they're not calling you in there to get more traffic there. That's for sure.
no, 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 no,
It'll
no.
be,
Whether it's a Tuesday night or it's a Saturday night, that place is always just jam packed to the gills and so good, man. I'm so excited for that. Um, yeah, look, I think it's been great, and while I can appreciate pettiness at times, Mike, and I can, um, enough's kind of enough with all this. It's kind of ran its course. We get it. Like
yeah.
you're
If
both big
this,
dogs in the room.
yeah,
You
if this
know,
year goes, if they don't come to some kind of agreement, and this year goes the way that it will have to go if there's no kind of middle ground found, it's going to be a bad year. It's going to be a year that's going to have a bunch of events, none of which are going to be really fun. The players aren't going to be happy. It's just not going to be. I just think it will be a real, downer of a year overall.
Look, they'll spin it as best they can, and they'll both not acknowledge the other one because that's what seems to be the case for the most part. Right? Don't give anyone any more attention.
I don't care. I don't care who acknowledges anybody. I don't care who pats themselves on the back. I don't care. Just get it done.
Yeah, just figure it out, right?
Yeah, don't care.
I think it's going to be.
I'll name them both persons of the year.
Well, that ought to be what's gonna resolve this right away.
I mean, it comes with
the BD persons of the year for WPA and Matchroom if they figure it out. Is that what you're saying, Mike? Is that on the table as a negotiating tactic here, Mike?
Because if you will look at this month's February, issue of Billiards Digest with the BD,
which by the way was a great cover, Mike.
Thank you. I've been waiting on that cover for over a year. I just knew that there was the right spot for it. But anyways, we had the BD Awards. This is the first year in a long time we did not give out a Person of the Year because I didn't see patting anybody on the back.
Is that right? I didn't. Well, I hate to admit it. I didn't know you had a Person of the Year, Mike. I know you had Player of the Year. I didn't know you had Person of the Year.
You were up for consideration, but
now I'm in uproar. Now I think I got to renew my BD subscription, Mike, because usually I get them and they're usually sitting right there in my dealer case every month. So
you're pay to play, bro.
I gotta fork up a little bit. Go check out billiardsdigest.com to renew your subscription. Support Mike and all the companies who support him, and it's always some great stuff, including the Federer and Christina one. Although you were like 2 months behind, Mike. Shouldn't that be out in like December?
No, there was a major tournament after the Moscone Cup. How can you do all that stuff when you don't have all the results in the year?
What am I missing? Major tournament after the Moscone Cup?
Yeah.
Like what?
The WPA, there were a couple WPA events after the Moscone Cup. Remember, everybody was talking about how Josh would have to go from Moscone Cup directly to, if he played in that to this. Was it China? Was it Qatar? Was it? I can't remember. But anyways, no, you wait till the years. You wait till the year's over, so you can. So when you do a tally of someone's winnings for the year, you know what they are.
That was long sewn up, Mike. When Christina made the 10 ball, that was
of course it was. But you still had winners to be named. You still had money to be earned.
I want to see guys.
I'm not doing it in the January issue when we cover the Moscone Cup in the January issue.
All right. By the way, Matchroom appreciates that, by the way. Look, I want to see guys like Daniel Maciel win a championship, but I want him to beat Federer in the final, right? Or I want to see Federer beat Josh in a final of a World Pool Master. I want to see
Alex Kazakis is WPA world number one.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Mike.
I want to see him earn it.
I want to see him be number one, but I want him to have to beat the best players in order to be number one and to hang your head on.
He would have to have won a tournament.
Did he even win a tournament? Tell me he won a tournament.
I don't know.
Surely he must have won a tournament.
I'm not going to bust on Alex. I love the guy.
He's a great guy. Alex really is a great guy. He's an easy guy to root for. And there's so many like that, man. And that's kind of been I get not wanting to ruffle any feathers and not piss off, don't shit where you eat, kind of mentality with some of these guys. But they have to be as much as the promoters want to be respected, the players as a collective need to be respected as well. And I think they're only going to do that by putting their foot down when it comes to things. And like you've said, and like I've heard as well, I think you're going to be surprised if things stay the course, how many players are going to end up changing which course they're going down, Mike.
Right.
Because like you mentioned, they're not happy right now. And there's so many of them, and you see them kind of with these passive aggressive point of views online where they're like, well, I mean, whenever the calendar does come out, well, utilize your platform to keep the heat on, to demand more, and it can be in a way that's productive and not just self-serving, because man, these guys, if everything were more ideal, man, it could be a great year, Mike. It could be a really, really great year.
Killer year. and everybody comes out ahead. Every event will have more participation. Both,
Which is
WPA
what you want.
and WNT will have more pats at the back. We'll have more. It's just gonna it would work.
Look, I want to see like the Cheng Jun Lins play in the World Nine Ball Championship.
Yeah,
I want to see these guys who are in good standing on both sides be able to play these big events because that's what makes them great. You know, I want to see Anton play, Federer in a semifinal. I mean, like all these things that we're missing out on, and the players are just unsure right now. Even still.
yeah. I mean, you're mentioning Anton. I'm thinking of like all the Marboys guys. Haven't heard a peep out of that whole group in a month.
They were live today, Mike. What are you living under a rock?
They're live doing what? Talking about tournaments coming up and which ones they're going to.
No, they were just I think playing.
Oh
So
no,
I shared them. Yeah,
I'm talking about the Marboys. 6 guys are going to this event. 6 guys I can't wait for that event. We're all playing WNT. We're all playing WPA. Whatever.
but see, but this is cool, Mike. Is that like, look, you have that Marboys Open, right? How much better would it have been if it would have been open to everybody? And I know that like it is, but it isn't, right?
Right.
So like you have all these markets where they're booming, right? So like Vietnam, for example,
Yeah.
right? You have all these people from all over the world wanting to get more involved, domestically or otherwise, and we're all getting, a watered down version of what we could be getting,
Yeah. It's a great way to put it. Everything is just watered down.
Yeah.
So
So a lot of stuff going on in the pool world over the next coming days. Iron City is going on with the WPBA. And so we'll be recapping that beginning of next week as well. And then I'm gonna be doing some stuff ahead of the events going out in Las Vegas. At least this is what I know for Derby. I was looking forward to talking to Josh, and that was really the one thing that I wish I would have gone to Derby for because I can't wait to see him. Although I'm sure he's not going to be thrilled to
he
see
can
me.
wait. He can give you the cold shoulder next month too. No big deal.
Oh, he is for sure. But he's gonna have to fade me though, because I'm persistent. So I can't wait to see him. I can't wait to try to talk to him. And
No,
I want these even these, like, I don't want to say severed relationships, but like these awkward moments in the relationship, whether it's with players or otherwise. Like we could be having Josh on to talk with the Shane match ahead of time, but because of the way everything is now, he ain't even I can't even get him on for that. You know what I mean? So it's like
listen.
all these little things.
I've had some frosty moments over the years. You end up just fighting your way through it. I mean, things change over time.
Eventually, they get over it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, eventually they'll get over it. So what you should do, what I'm thinking of doing, is having a bunch of Molina
Okay.
Mike cutout faces with the little stick on them.
Okay.
Hundreds and ever. So wherever Josh walks in that arena, he's going to see your face.
There you go. Okay. You know who I bet you can get to coordinate with that is get Collins on there.
The face
Get,
fan.
yeah, I like that. I mean, it's Vegas after all. It's going to be a little. The weather's going to be hot. You're going to need them.
Going through PA used to be an option, but I don't think so anymore.
No, it's not. I tried that route too, unfortunately. So,
That's
and like before all this, I still like it's easier for me because it wasn't the other way around, right? So like I didn't take it personal, and I'm sure he did, and he's got every right to, right? But like, it's all these things, right? Like Derby City and this stuff coming up in Vegas, and Reyes Cup, all these things that, like, man, they were great, but fuck, they could have been a lot better, Mike.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it could have been just through the roof, and we're missing out on it. And so, look, it's hopefully with stuff like this, we can do our part and put some pressure on them, and hopefully they, hear the complaints and
Because they've listened to us in the past.
I mean, look, we just and there goes the ego right out the door, Mike. Right? No, I mean, we it's unfortunate, and we all love watching great pool, and it is great to see all these forward ways of thinking and social media being utilized and all these great events, and it being more accessible than ever to watch. Because I remember when I fell in love with professional pool, probably like 20 years ago, Mike, you know, looking online and using translator to find, links for China Opens and world championships and all these really like obscure but like monster events. Like I remember way back when it was a world teams, which I just loved. It was like a 5-man team. Well, men and women, but it would be from like each country, and you would see like Han Yu and Wu Jiaqing, and against these like great other 5 men and women teams, but like you couldn't find anything. And so I was online like at 4 o'clock in the morning, searching online and trying to find stuff. And now more than ever, you can wake up and see a big event going on in the Philippines or in Vietnam, or follow the China Open, even if you need their platform, whatever. But it's like, man, I want everybody there. You know what I mean? And not in this sense of like kumbaya and can't we all get along. I don't care about that. I just want to see all the best players there as a fan.
And all line up for the same events.
Anyhow, Mike, you got anything else before we get out of here?
No, I think we've kind of dragged everybody through the mud pretty well today.
We just pissed off more people, which is what we're good at doing. Look, I will try to talk to whoever I can while I'm out there in Vegas, and depending on who shows up, we'll keep the phone on them and see what we can get to, have them discuss on the record. I know off the record we usually get some pretty good stuff as well from some of these players or other industry leaders as well. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm hanging out with my girls in the meantime, and then in 3 weeks' time, Mike, I'm going to be gone for a month.
Vegas.
5 weeks, something like that. So anyhow, big shout out to all of our sponsors. Gabby says thanks for the show. It was Gabby holding us accountable is why I decided to do the show, because she said on whatever day, Tuesday, we better do it on Thursday if we say we are. So
yeah, she was here from the beginning. For the last 5 minutes.
Well, I'm going to be camped out throughout Vegas for a big part at the Lucasi booth. They'll have the Gold Crown 7 out there, so you guys want to check out the new table during that event. They're going to have a lot of cues to demo, so make sure and go stop by and check that out. We'll be having a lot of more stuff that'll be previewing it in the meantime. So,
windows open booth? You haven't a place?
No, they got kicked out. You know what's funny is that hopefully they let me in the door, because I may have burned some bridges in Vegas along the way, as well. So I need to, before I start promoting all this stuff and saying I'm going to be there,
setting up camp there.
I mean, I guess if I need to, I haven't, no, I don't know. Back in the day when I first started doing this, Mike, and me and you weren't friends, and I was just annoying people. What I would do is I would just show up, right? I would just show up and, throw my phone up and just do my thing or whatever. And just hopefully nobody would tell me anything, And then once I met Michael Panozzo of Billiards Digest, the future Hall of Famer, then I had to start doing things properly and start asking for permission and let him know I'm going to show up and, give him some respect. And I get it,
Be legit. No more guerrilla podcast. But you had a whole table there set up for a couple of years with
We did, yeah. And then and by the way, thanks to Ozzy for that, because he was the one that gave us that opportunity.
Did they tell you can't do that anymore, or did you just not ask last year?
Well, to be honest with you, the way that Derby City a couple of years ago was why I changed up, not having like a formal booth, because working a booth is tough, number one. And for what I like to do, I like being around everything going on. You know what I mean? So like, I don't want to have to be camped out. So I'm going to have like a base station out at the Lucasi booth, but it's more of like, come and go, and, they're going to be doing their own thing like normal companies do. And so, but like I can still float around and do my thing and, put my phone in front of people's faces and all that good stuff. So, and last year, I think it was last year. Was I there last year? Yeah, it was. They gave me media credentials last year, so I don't see why they wouldn't this year, Mike. I don't think I pissed them off between now and then. Did I?
No, you can always call them and find out.
Let me shoot an email. I guess I'll shoot an email. All right. Anyhow, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. We'll have more shows coming up this weekend, more shows in the coming days, and we will see all you guys real soon. Later, y'all.